There she goes.
There she is.
There she
Hi,
is.
Carrie.
Hi there, sorry about that.
Hello.
Hello, Carrie.
All right, it's now 6:01. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting. First thing will be the Pledge of Allegiance by Tara. Go for it, girl.
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Allegiance
of the United States of
of the
America
United States of America,
and to the republic
and to the
for which
republic
it stands,
for which it
one
stands,
nation, under
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
with
and justice for
liberty,
all.
Justice for all.
Thank you, Tara.
Well done.
We have something modified to the agenda.
Yes, President Holland, I request that there is a modification of the agenda in Human Resources. In the consent agenda, there are 2 new employees and 1 resignation. We ask that the board take that under consideration in the consent agenda.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to add this on?
Motion to add an addendum to the personnel consent agenda.
I'll second that.
If it's first and second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Community and staff, we have any community members want to speak today? Nope. Okay, we'll move right along. Recognitions.
Yes,
Dr. Tony.
board members and members of the audience, May has been a very busy month. The great news is that Ording is blessed with very talented staff. And it was a month of recognition that we're very proud of the team of folks that have been assembled here in this great school district. I'd like to note that Food Service Hero Day was on May 1st. National School Nurse Day was on May 6th. Speech and Language Pathologist Appreciation Month also took place through the month of May, and it was Teacher Appreciation Week, May 4 through 8. And we had a number of people involved sending postcards to staff and recognizing their great work. And so we're very, very happy that our dedicated staff received the recognition they deserve so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tony. Move right along on to D. The first report is the financial report. Report by, so if any questions, I think they had a couple of questions on the financials.
It's fine.
No questions? All righty.
I just said thank you for putting in those extra notes that explained things that were different. That really helped me because I was baffled until I read that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Here, another question. We'll move on to community and staff survey results. Tara?
Good evening. Okay. Yes, so I'm happy to present these results this evening. On the week of May 4th, we ran 2 exchanges, one for staff to assess how remote work was going for them and what additional resources and supports we could provide. And the other was for community, essentially family members, to assess how remote learning was going for our families and our students. So I'm going to go ahead and present my screen and we'll go over these results, a brief overview of these results, and then I will answer any questions that you have to the best of my ability. I'm going to go ahead and start here with the staff report. So in this particular exchange, we had 262 participants. Can you all see my screen, by the way?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Great. So 258 thoughts, which are essentially comments that people had about remote work, and over 11,000 thoughts were rated on a scale of 1 to 5. So if somebody rated a thought as a 1, it means that they did not agree with it. It wasn't similar to an experience that they were having. If they rated it a 5, then they related highly to that thought. So in your board report, you have an overview of the top 20 thoughts that were shared. So I'm sure that you've had an opportunity to review that. So what I'd like to do today is actually jump into the theming work that I went ahead and did for this particular survey. We basically lumped all of those thoughts into different themes to help us assess what items could be actionable immediately and what items we needed maybe a little bit more input from staff around. We also had some celebrations in there. There was a lot of celebration from staff around Tina, our technology TOSA, and the support that our technology team has provided. So the things that we assessed that we're able to sort of act on immediately is this request for supplies. There were 37 total thoughts shared around supplies, and quite a few of them centered around wanting to get access into the classrooms. So principals are working on a plan to get teachers into their classrooms very quickly so that they can have access to those supplies. Another theme that, something else that emerged is this information piece. Staff wanted more information about what the long-term plans were. So on Monday of this week, I actually invited all staff to attend an overview of this survey, of these results that I presented. And at that meeting, I shared with them, while we can't provide information necessarily on what next year will look like yet, I did share that we were planning on building a task force where we would look at these results. We would look at guidance that came down from state, federal, and local levels, from OSPI, and that they would be the first to know when those things came down. And we were ready to share information with them and making plans, so that we could do that when we get the information. So essentially, you can kind of come in here and look at all of these themes, and you can view comments. Are there any questions here about the staff exchange before I jump into a very brief overview of the community exchange?
I think it's pretty obvious from the amount of response you got that the staff are glad that you want to know how this is working for them.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah, I agree. And we had quite a few staff show up to the presentation of results on Monday too. And so we are very happy to share that there are some action items on here that we can do right away. And they understand, I think, that some things are going to take a little bit more time and planning to address as well. Okay, very quickly.
Hey, Tara.
Yeah.
Hey, Tara, I really don't want to lose sight of the survey as, we get into summer. Some of the concerns that the staff shared are significant, and I don't know how to solve them. Like just time, balancing their own students at home and their classroom needs. Like that's something that is a very serious concern of mine that I don't know I don't know what we can do to help them solve that, but I just don't want to lose sight of this. Like the further we get away from it, sometimes we kind of stop working on the issues that they've raised, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm hoping that we can revisit this, even if it's 2 and 3 months down the road. Let's take a look back at these things and keep identifying ways to support our people.
Yeah,
Great point, Carrie.
I agree. And so one thing that you'll see here, that's a great segue from the staff results into the community results, because what you'll see is that staff and community really both talked a lot about student engagement being one of the most important things in balancing how to balance time under this new landscape. So what you see here before you is essentially a snapshot of the themes that emerged from the community survey. A lot of things are similar to the staff survey. And what I think the main takeaway from the survey, both surveys are there was some very low-hanging fruit that we can act on right away. We've already started to do that. I think that this survey really tells us what the main issues are. And I think, Carrie, in answer to your question about revisiting the survey, that this is going to essentially, what we'll need to do now is go back out to staff and community and have them help us with the how. How do we help you balance stress How do we help you manage time? How do we help improve student engagement? And I think that's what we use these results for, is it helps us determine those things that we need to follow up on and get more information on, and work with our staff and community to basically develop a plan, especially if this remote learning landscape continues into next year. So that is a brief overview of our survey results. Is there anything else that I can show you more in depth, or any questions that you have?
I really appreciate the way you just talked about now it's the how, and that's a process, because this is all new to all of us. And so, we need to be reflective as we're running along and doing this. So thank you very much for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
I'd like to kind of that what Kathy just said, and going back to the community later and asking the how is part of that vital engagement piece when we're talking about communication and engagement of staff and community. So excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
You're welcome.
Moving right along, the next one's the long-range plan update.
Good evening. Hi, everyone. I want to share a little bit of information with you about the Human Resources Long-Range Plan that we have. So just so that we all have the same information, in 2017, we were asked in Human Resources to develop a plan, a strategic plan. And at that time, we were looking at a 5-year plan. That was something that I didn't have a template for. We hadn't done something like that before in human resources, and even in looking through a variety of organizations, it wasn't as common. However, we had recently had a voluntary audit of human resources because Audit was growing enough that we were developing a human resources department by the size of the district. So we did develop a plan in 2017-18. And then a revised plan was brought back to the board in 18-19. And now this is the third time that it's coming back. And each time we typically would extend it. It's an opportunity for us to put together goals over a period of time, hence the long range plan. So what we did based on the 2017 audit is we identified areas of recruiting, hiring, and retention of our employees, because we can really put a lot of pieces of the work that we do in there. So to give you context of the HR department, there are 4 full-time staff members that work in HR. And if you are around me very much, you hear me say that HR exists to provide support and mitigate risk. That's what we do. We help people with recommendations for how to move forward, but we also look at what would be the risk if they were to go into one area or another. Our work encompasses things like drafting job descriptions, working with unemployment claims, working with workers' compensation when there's on-the-job injuries. Certainly our selection and recruitment processes, which is where we've put a lot of work into since we started this plan. Year 1, as you can imagine, was our baseline. We started the plan, but we didn't have any trend data at that time. And so now we're in the 3rd version of the plan, and we can look back and we see things like turnover rate, where we knew that we had people exiting the system and we were worried about that perception, but we didn't have the facts. Well, now with this plan, we're tracking that type of information, and we have turnover data back to 2014-15 moving forward. One note I meant to tell you, I was looking at it today on the turnover and noticed that in 2016-17, there were 33 people that exited the system, same as this year, but we have more employees, and yet the percentage was the same. And I wanted to let you know that it's not a math error, it's a rounding. So one was 11.4% and the other one was 10.5, and they both rounded to 11. So it baffled me a bit, so I wanted to share that with you. But now, not only are we able to look at the turnover rates, but we can look at the experience of our employees, our certificated staff. How long are they staying in our system, and what level of experience do they have when they're coming to us? We can also look at what universities we tend to hire people from. Not because we're going out specifically to those universities in the beginning, but it's where they got their bachelor's. So it's a way of telling that those that we bring into the system that meet our criteria and seem like a good fit for us have gone through a strong program. And so we can begin to partner with those programs in a different way. Saying yes to student teacher placements through those programs, always being at the recruitment fair for those programs so that we can continue to build. We learned about some things in this plan that didn't work. We started out with the lofty goal of meeting with all of our new employees, talking with them at their 30, 60, and 90-day intervals upon hire. Well, it didn't happen. We couldn't find enough time in our 4-person office to reach out to 45 approximately new hires in 33 times in 90 days. So we've modified that. And that's part of this plan, is being able to look at our goals and make a difference. We also originally started with a 5-year plan. This year, you'll see that it's a 3-year plan. It isn't because we don't have a lot of goals. It isn't because we don't want to keep moving forward. But in July, I will be going to another opportunity, and we have a new leader coming in. And I wanted to give the person enough framework to be able to move forward, but also to have the opportunity to see what's relevant boarding upon their entry so that they can decide how to move the system forward as well. So hopefully you find this plan to meet our needs. I've been excited about the team and the work that we've done in the district collaboratively with others to meet our goals and to continue to modify it as necessary. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Debbie, I don't have any questions, but one of the things I wrote down on my notepad as I was reviewing this and reading it, and I did read it, is that it's detailed, it's thorough, and it's thoughtful. And I know this was a heck of a lot of work for you and your team to put something together this well, and I appreciate it. I have no questions.
Thank
I know
you.
we have some issues to work on, and I know that in our country and in our state, substitute shortages are a huge thing. So I don't have any questions. I just wanted to acknowledge that I recognize this is an excellent document, and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wanted to say I really appreciated the answers I got, because I had asked a lot of questions. But one of the things I wanted to say is that when I talked about let's see, a firmer goal to plan to demonstrate, I goofed up. I was talking about the engagement survey, not the exit interview. So that's my mistake. I do apologize about that. And the other thing I wanted to mention was the reason why I asked on page 23 about the growth areas to retain employees was I was kind of surprised at the amount of employees the percentage of employees that are still with us. I really thought that was going to be larger, and maybe that was just from my time here. And so that was why I made some suggestions that perhaps we can think of some ways, like cohort groups for different things to enhance the reason for people to stay with us. Because a lot of those people who have been teaching for a long time have a lot of leadership potential as teachers, or to help with perhaps instructional classes for people, things like that we could capitalize on, and perhaps that would make it more desirable for them to stay. That was why I asked about that. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the press for us to continue to think about that. I think it's really important, and Executive Director Rabb and I think have a lot to talk about with regard to that. And I thought some of your ideas were they're fun to think about, where we could tap into people who already have those leadership skills and continue to grow others and just find those connectivity pieces. So I thought it was great. Great idea.
One of the big assets for living in a small community and working for a fairly small school district is the relationships. And so I think that we need to capitalize on that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Will there be any other questions?
Yeah, I just had one kind of note, and Debbie, I apologize for not sending this to you in advance of the meeting, but it didn't really jump out at me until I was going over it again. There was a significant increase in staff absences between 17-18 and 18-19, and it like across the board. And I'm just wondering if that, and you don't have to answer this now, but I was curious if that was due to better, maybe better reporting. But it was like an increase that wasn't equivalent to the number of employees.
Yeah,
Again,
it is something that I'll look at. I would say that the reporting, I have to say in transparency, we've had the same system and we have the ability to run a report the same way for a period of time. So I don't believe off the top of my head that it had to do with the reporting difference.
okay.
But I do, I will take a look at that. I know, I didn't write down which year you said, but I'm trying to look at the information now. I'll bring that back. But I do know that we had quite a few, it does include professional development absences, and we had quite a few trainings during a period of time there that elevated that as well.
Okay. I assume there's an explanation for it, but it was just kind of glaring. So I wanted to bring it up, and sub shortages are on my mind, especially when we're leaning, we want more professional development. And, you know, we do so much with the PLCs, and our staff is desiring more. And so then I was looking at that absences number going, how do we reconcile all this? And that's perhaps not a challenge for you to solve, but it will be, I think, a candle that the board's going to have to carry over the next, not just next year, because next year will be so crazy with COVID implications, but for the next 2 to 3 to 4 years, for sure. So anyways, it was just on my mind, and then that jumped out. So
I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
yeah.
I'll look into that.
Will there be any other questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on to number 4, long-range plan update, safety and security plan. Chris.
Yes, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about the safety and security plan. So that you know, over the last 4 years, there have been 4 different people working on this plan. And so I was given this opportunity in June of 2019 with the recognition that there are actually several plans that are part of this umbrella. So that you understand the context of this plan is the umbrella for several other plans. The first plan is the emergency operations plan. The second one is the continuity of operations plan. The third one is the all hazard mitigation plan. And remember, in fall of 2019, the Emergency Operations Center came in and talked to you a little bit about what the all hazard mitigation plan was in fall of 2019. That plan should be complete. I gave them the last bit of information this week. And so that plan should be complete. They were kind of on hiatus for completing that plan because the Emergency Operations Center had some things to do with the COVID-19 outbreak. So one of the things that you have to understand is who went and what went into building this plan. The first thing is that we have a quarterly safety committee that meets, that gathers data regarding injuries, incidents, needs in the district. And those include staff, they include secretarial staff, that includes central office staff, that includes HR staff. And we gather data during that time, during those quarterly meetings, to basically inform our decision-making regarding safety measures in the district. The second thing that informed our decisions was the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department audits. We had 2 audits this year. One audit was done at the high school, and then there was an audit done at OPS and OMS this year. Next year, PTR will be on their list for audits there. So the other one was the all hazard mitigation assessment by the EOC. They actually conducted an assessment as well of the entire area, what the needs of the entire area are. Then finally, the Puget Sound ESD did an audit of all of our science labs in the district and are maintaining and use and disposal of all of our chemical waste. And so there's several different sources of the information that helped inform our decision regarding the safety plan. So that you know, the emergency operations plan that's under this umbrella went through some audits. The other part of the emergency operation plan, we need to add pandemic under the emergency operations plan as well. And that's the same thing with the continuity of operations plan. Now we've lived it, and some of the work that we'll be doing in the task force this coming summer will help inform our continuity of operations plan. Now, the continuity of operations plan goes beyond pandemics. It could be, a storm, it could be flooding, it could be anything. But what does that continuity of operations plan look like when it comes to a crisis? One of the things that, in taking a look at the things that I'm doing and what we're doing together as a district, is that one of the things that's been difficult is, number one, that we've had 4 different people overseeing the operation, and that will be the next rendition you'll see completion dates, you'll see clear due dates and next steps in regards to making some adjustments to that plan. And so that particular feedback would be very helpful in regards to making sure, because honestly, if you take a look at the plan, there's a lot of continuings. There's a lot of, we've gotten this far, but we need some target dates in order to make sure that we're completing the things in a timely manner. One thing that's not part of this is a seismic assessment of some of our buildings. We have one building that we're currently working with USGS, OPS, being the building that's on the list of buildings that need to be assessed, and local engineers taking a look at that and seeing what needs to be done in order to keep that building safe. I think I did that pretty quick. Very good, 5 minutes.
Chris, when will that test be done?
The seismic right now, actually, it's being done right now. Matter of fact, Curtis is meeting with the engineers and the seismic people. We just got another call this week. They were on hiatus as well during this time, but there's currently some the assessment, and then the engineers come in and make a decision on what actually has to be done. And so I'll let you know more about that. I don't know what their timelines are for completing it, but I know OPS was the one building. They have several buildings in the state are on that list, and OPS was the one building in our district that was on that list.
Okay.
Well, if they want to talk to anybody that was actually there in OPS during the last earthquake, I myself and a few others were there, okay?
Yeah, I did hear about that.
I just don't want them to give us a report that says you can't let students in this building, because we'll have an issue.
That's one of the problems with doing assessments.
Yep.
I'm definitely actually talking about that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Right.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for Chris? Nope. If not, we'll move on to the second read of the policy. Do you have a question, Melissa?
Not really a question. Again, I just wanted to thank Chris for the work that he put into it. And I really liked in his, in the document, you could easily see what has been added and what is continuing. And I appreciated being able to decipher that. Makes it easy for me. So I just, again, wanted to acknowledge great work and to thank you.
And the one thing that'll happen next time is that I'm going to have completion dates on there.
Perfect.
All right, seeing any other questions, we're going to move down to the second read.
I had nothing new, Stanley.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing.
Anybody else? Nothing new? George?
I'm sorry, I fell asleep. What was that question? No,
Yeah.
I didn't have anything else, Stanley.
Okay, thank you. Bonnie, do we need to vote on this tonight?
Yes, if we can please have a motion.
Okay. Thank you. I'm looking for a motion for the second read of the policies.
I'll move to approve the second reading of the policies as presented.
I second.
The first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Thank you. Now we're going to move down to the consent agenda. Items 1 through 8, and we added 9 with the personnel. Oh, we added it to the personnel.
I would rather not approve the personnel agenda because I don't want to see Debbie leave.
I agree.
I'm not entirely certain it works that way.
Resignation denied.
We tried.
We know she's going out for better things. And congratulations to her.
Yes.
And a new endeavor.
Thank you.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is it items 1 through 8 or 1 through 9? It's 1 through 8.
It's 1 through 8. We added it to the personnel, so just 1 through 8. I'm sorry. 1 through 8.
Motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 8.
I'll second that.
The first and second, all approve? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Thank you. Next items on the list are action items. The first one is 2019-20 academic calendar. Debbie.
So this is a prepared by item. I'd be happy to answer any questions. As you can imagine, with COVID-19, we had to adjust our calendar year. So this is simply moving the 3 days that we closed in March to the end of the year.
Any questions? Hearing none, we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the revised 2019-2020 academic calendar as presented.
I second it.
It'll be first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Next one, Steve, it's prepared by Steve.
Yeah, this is the annual report for our alternative learning experience program that we have. And so if you have any questions about what you've seen on there, I'll be happy to answer them.
I didn't have a question. I wanted to tell the other board members that in December, I had the opportunity to take a tour of the high school with Cliff and Marcy. And Cliff did a lot of talking about the program at the high school. And I would recommend that anybody, when we're back at, when school's open again, to do that, because I really had a very great understanding of all the support they were putting into assisting students at the high school to graduate. And I was really impressed. They really have put a plan and action and decisions and their budget to support that, and I was really impressed.
And I think if you ask Cliff, I think one of the first things he would probably point out is Jennifer Blanellis.
Yes,
right?
Yes,
right,
I
Kathy?
got to meet her and heard all about it. Great job. Great job.
Yeah, when you have programs like these that are trying to serving our highest need kids that are most disconnected from our system, they need kind of a loving pit bull, and she meets the criteria for that. She's relentless, and she's just an amazing person. Goes way overboard for every single one. She knows those kids like the back of her hand, every single one of them, and she's really a large part of the success of our work with these kids. So she's an amazing staff member.
Yes, and I was really impressed the way she was tracking kids that weren't even on her list yet, but she was tracking them to make sure that they had the support to avoid that situation. And so, preventative at high school level, that's just amazing. That was great.
If don't have any other questions, can I get a motion, please?
I'll move to approve the Alternative Learning Experience Program.
I'd love to second it.
The first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Steve, you up again?
Yes, as well, annually, the interscholastic activities program also needs board review and approval. And you'll see that last spring was every 3 years we do a survey. And so last spring we did that survey, and the results of that survey are present in this report, which is kind of nice because we go several years without that updated information. Probably the biggest highlight is just that we're still trying to figure out a way to balance out the equity of male and female sports. And so the survey gives us an opportunity to see what kids are interested in if we were to add something. And then the report also makes say this is probably the most likely thing we can do. As you can see, for girls to increase the sport was swim and dive. That's just not feasible for us. And so different alternatives would be looked at. But Marty and crew are continuing to look at that. We noticed that at the middle school, we've got a pretty good sense of equity at that level, but then it really drops off once we get to high school. That is something that they're aware of and something that they're working on.
Any questions?
I only have one. Did we provide a list of sports, or did high schoolers really list badminton?
It's part of the actual survey that goes out to them. There's a WIAA survey, and that is actually a sport that some schools have. So yeah.
I would have guessed pickleball before badminton. There's some for pickleball.
I think we should start dodgeball.
That one's not allowed.
All right, thank you, Steve. There's no further questions. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the Interscholastic Activities Program.
Second.
The first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Steve, you're up again on emergency waiver instruction hours.
Okay, this is a prepared by report, so I'll be certainly happy to entertain. You might have some questions with it, so I just would probably open to any questions that you might have in relationship to it.
Just one from me, Steve. Is this only for the 2019-2020 year, or could it potentially extend beyond that?
Nope, it's just this year.
Okay.
And so the three options that were there that systems around the state had to deal with was they wanted to keep their calendar the way it was because they didn't feel like they missed any time during the closure. Systems like us, we missed a few days, but we made up those days, but we didn't make all up the hours. So that's the resolution that we're after. And then you
We can't hear you.
Sorry. How was that? Looks like I was just saying that it's just for this year, and there were kind of three options that systems had to deal with. One is that they felt like they didn't skip a beat. As soon as closure happened, they dove right in. Kids didn't miss any time. Teachers didn't miss any time. The second resolution, which is the one 2018, which is when we are, said that we did miss a few days, but we actually make those days up between June 16th and June 19th, but we're not able to make up all the instructional hours. So those are the ones that are waived. And then the third option is for those systems that lost days and hours, and nobody has to go past June 19th. But even if they went to June 19th, they wouldn't make up all the days. So they're asking for waivers of days and hours. We just need to get the waiver for the actual hours. We'll have the 180 staff days based if we go to the 19th. And then our learning plan is a part of that. So that's the other aspect of this is we also have to present to OSPI. We just have to make a decision on the resolution, but then we have to present the remote learning plan to OSPI. And it needs to cover all of the different aspects that OSPI has requested, and I'm confident it does. And so that's the other piece of it. You would approve both the resolution and the learning plan.
Any other questions? None. We would like to get a motion on the resolution number 7.219-20. Can we get a motion?
I'll move to approve resolution number 7.2019-0 for the emergency waiver of instructional hours, as well as the remote learning plan.
Can we get a second? Okay. Thank you, George. It's been first and second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Pass. Next one would be student rep. Nice to see you.
Hi. Okay. So what I'm starting off with isn't directly school related, but I feel like it's really important to talk about. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I feel that it's especially important to talk about this because of what's happening right now. And what is happening right now could cause like our students like to feel lonely because we aren't in school directly. And I know from personal experience, like I used to have like a lot of anxiety and like other things, and like school was a place where it helped me deal with it and like also helped me like overcome like a lot of things. So I feel like it's really important to talk about. And yeah, my second thing is that seniors got their cap and gown a few weeks ago. It was really exciting. We're also allowed to decorate our caps, and I just started mine yesterday, and it's been a lot of work because I've taken over 6 hours decorating mine already, and it's still not done. But when I finish it for the next meeting, I'll show you guys the finished product. So for ASB executive elections, we are currently running them, and after that will be our class officers elections. Next week on Wednesday, May 27th at 6 p.m, we will have our NHS induction and senior recognition ceremony. There will be a link to it because it's going to be live streamed, and I get to talk in it. So if you guys want to come, you can. But that's all I have.
Where is the link? Where do we find the link so we can?
They're going to be sent out by Mr. McNinch. Yeah.
To us too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, please make sure we're on the list.
Just spectators, we don't have to worry if we all show up, right?
Right.
And thank you so much for mentioning the mental health. That was so brave of you, and thank you, because that is an important issue for us all to be thinking about right now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Hey, Bonnie, could you put that on our calendars and send it out so we won't forget?
Oh, great idea. Great idea.
I absolutely will.
Thank you, Bonnie. Excuse me. Next thing will be board comments. None? Okay. Basically, the next the board will go into executive session to discuss employees.
Hey,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was a little slow on the uptake, but I would like to make a comment.
Sure.
I want to just make a positive comment and let the record state just how much I appreciate all the efforts that my kids' teachers are putting into reaching out to them and continuing to provide them educational opportunities and continuing to connect with them. I have 4 in the schools right now, and I have been very pleased with the amount of engagement that the teachers have been able to achieve.
Yeah, George, I agree with you. I don't have 4 little ones, but I have 4 old ones in the high schools who don't quite feel that everything's required of them right now. And the teachers have not given up on them and have been persistent and, informative and looped us in when needed. And I just can't say enough about the dedication and the commitment they've had to at least my 2 students, and I'm sure all the others as well. So thank you for mentioning that. I agree with you.
I would like to thank both of you, George and Carrie, for putting your comments in there because I have no students in school right now. So I have no idea what this looks like and what all that Tara did as far as putting that survey out there to get that information. I'm completely blank. I'm in the dark with blinders on and I only see out my own window. So I have no clue. So I appreciate when you guys bring in your experience as parents in our district as to what is going well that way, because it helps me to see. So thank you for that.
Well, if you ever want to see a cat rodeo, just swing by my house and see what it looks like to keep 4 kids engaged.
Well, I think Kathy and myself can see that because we have grandchildren in the school district. We have grandbabies.
Yes, it's interesting. That's why I really appreciated what Ashley mentioned about the mental health, because some families it's going really well and some families it's not. And it isn't a reflection on the family or the teachers or anything. It's just sometimes, take example, having a middle school or young high school girl and the mom at home together all the time. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about. We have to, there's a lot of things happening here. So I'm glad that we're thinking about all those different aspects. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank all of you. Like I said, we'll go into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss a public employee. Any other questions before we go into executive session?
Nope.
Nope. All righty, Bonnie. We'll let you know when we come out, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Bye,
And then we
everybody.
need to switch
right.
over to the executive
Right.
page. All right, bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.